I'd like to help people understand that you get what you expect in this life.
Yes.
Neurologically, physiologically, you get what you expect in this life. And so on my path, I didn't always expect the best. I didn't always receive the best. But I've learned over time that the key to a powerful mindset is what you focus on, because what you focus on expands. And today, with NAR and all the nonsense with the lawsuit and the settlement now, a whole bunch of people in this industry are walking around with some pretty shaky mindsets, and that's going to get them
Yeah.
shaky results as predictably as the sun coming up in the east. So, whatever questions you have about me, about my journey and how I came
Well,
across that,
I do. Yeah, I want to dig into that. So you're an attorney for 15 years or 17 years. Which one did you say?
like 15, something like that.
15 years. What was it about being an attorney that you were like, yeah, this is not it. I'm gonna go buy a franchise? Because like obviously we all know attorneys go to a lot of school, they take some really big tests, and then they have amazing opportunities that are like, through the roof, that only attorneys can have. And why was that not your path?
It's a personality issue. I mean, you've taken personality profiles, right? I'm a high D, and being chained to a desk 12 hours a day, and fighting with other people all day long just wasn't my thing. I mean, I did federal court class action litigation, and it's a brutally stressful environment. I was working ridiculous hours while my kids are growing up without me, and I got to 40 years old and I said, I'm done. The real trigger was my father was dying of cancer in a hospital in Bradenton, about an hour south of where I lived. And so I'm driving down, I guess it was I-75, whatever the road is between Tampa and
Yeah,
Bradenton. And
yeah.
I keep seeing this billboard, "We buy ugly houses." So I'm driving along one day. I just called them and I said, "Tell me what you guys do." And the next thing you know, I'm stroking a check for a franchise on the other side of the country, in a state that I'd never been to, in an industry I'd never worked in, to do a job I'd never done. And,
Wow.
packed up the
Yeah.
family and
So
off.
when
What's that?
somebody makes a decision like that kind of sort of drastic decision, like at that point, you're truly done with what it is that you're doing. Like there's no going back. And like, so for me, I'm like, shoot, if I'm an attorney and I'm a class action civil lawsuit guy and I'm tired and I'm stressed, why don't I just go become an ambulance chaser, right? And then put up billboards that say, call me when you're in an accident, right? And you know, would that job be easier? I don't know. I'm just assuming there are easier positions for attorneys, but for you, it was kind of like, yeah, no, I'm done. Like, I love this concept that this other company's doing. I'm going all in on that. And you're going to Utah. Like, listen, there's a big difference between Tampa, Bradenton, and Utah, right? Tell me about that move. Like, how did your family transition into that?
Well, it was kind of selfish, to tell you the truth. It not only was a career change, but I grew up on skis. I raced in high school. I raced in college. I was a Paralympian. I was on the U.S. Paralympic ski team. I was a two-time silver medalist at the World Disabled Ski Championships and Paralympics, and a four-time national disabled ski champion. I love skiing. Hundreds of days a year on skis. And so I'm 40 years old, and I'm looking at my kids, and I want them to be on skis. And fortunately, they were young enough at that time that it made sense. So I closed everything up and moved across the country. And my wife was good with it because she knew how miserable I was practicing law, and it was an adventure. And my wife is incredible. She'll support me in whatever I want to do. She's just an amazing human being. And so off we went and spent 10 years. 10 years in Utah. And then at the end of the 10 years in Utah, I was 50 years old, and I'd had my fill, and my kids are looking at schools back east. And so I said to my wife, Paula, I picked this one, you pick the next one, and here we are in Charlotte.
That's awesome. I I picked this one, you picked the next one. Why did she choose Charlotte, by the way?
Well, she's got family in Atlanta, and I've got
Oh, good.
family. I have family in Florence, South Carolina. So it seemed like a logical place to land, and I was all good with it. And Charlotte turned out to be great. And I don't know if we're done. I still have a yearning to be out west every now and again, but don't tell my
Yeah.
wife, because she'll probably freak out to hear me say that.
What's
But
your wife's number? We're texting her this podcast. It's like, It's funny. I've been to Charlotte before. I absolutely love Charlotte. I think Charlotte's a great town. It's like a nice mix of, a downtown. There's a nice mix of great restaurants. There's a nice mix of being able to be a little bit in the outskirts and not have to be inundated with a ton of people. I like that about Charlotte. Charlotte's a great town to be in.
Yeah, we're happy here. It's not Atlanta. I spent 2 years to the day in Atlanta after law school, and I can't do a town that big again. I can't do Miami again. It's that's a little large, So Charlotte's about right.
Yep. Except for Sunday. You can't go anywhere on Sunday in Charlotte.
No, you cannot, man. No, you cannot.
I made the mistake. I was staying in the Locust area, and I made the mistake of going into Charlotte on a Sunday evening to like have dinner, and that didn't happen. We ended up at like a McDonald's or something.
Yeah. Well, one of the downsides of it not being Atlanta is they don't have the road network that Atlanta does. Until, when I moved here 10 years ago, these guys hadn't even completed the outer ring, the 285, 485.
Right.
And that's saying something when you got a city with 2 million people that doesn't have an outer ring.
Yeah.
That's saying something. But in any event, here we are.
Yeah. All right. So you stopped being an attorney. You moved to Utah. How was your experience running this franchise? Like, what was that like?
Oh, it was a gas. It was a blast. It was a good time. And the week I got there, the company Homebesters dropped 5,000 letters just to welcome me to the market. And the phone started ringing and I didn't stop for 10 years. I bought and flipped and in 2009, January 2009, I got my real estate license because the market, the equity had disappeared from the market, and to survive, I had to do a few hundred short sales. So by the time I left Utah, we'd sold 500 homes or something like that, whether flipping or short selling or just regular retail listings. But that was a lot of that was a good time. That was a lot of experience. I bought a house with a horse in the bedroom. I bought a house with goats in the basement. I saw some stuff, man.
Wow. A horse in the bedroom and goats in the bed. The horse was like alive in the bedroom, right? Because that brings me like some Godfather memories.
He was, but I can tell you something. When you walk into the master bedroom and there's a horse standing there staring back at you, and you look at the homeowner and he says, "Well, we moved out a month ago and he moved in, and he just came through the door and we just left him here." And I'm like, "Holy smoke!"
Wow. I'm going to do one of those only in Utah situations. The first thing, when you said horse in the bedroom, I swear to you, the first thing that came to my mind was the first Godfather movie when the monster woke up with the horse head in his bed. Remember that? I was like, all right, it was alive. It was alive. Okay, we're good. So now you transition and you're in Charlotte, you're rocking it out. And so the reason that I'm going kind of step by step through this is because so many of you listening to this podcast right now are feeling defeated. And maybe you've attended a couple of my classes post this NAR decision, and maybe you don't feel as defeated anymore. Maybe you feel the win of what could be and what will be. And if you're in real estate long enough, and Kip, you can attest to this, if you're in real estate long enough, change will happen. You can't stop the change. These markets will change. These things are cyclical. We are going through nothing that no one else goes through. Like the mortgage industry went through TRID in 2010. Like this is what happens. And now we just have to shift the way we do business. Not a big deal, guys. Like not a big deal. And the reason I bring this up is because you feel so defeated. And here's Kip. Kip's born with a deficiency in his arms, goes through, I don't know how many tens of surgeries just so that he can have fingers and opposable thumb, and still somehow becomes a successful attorney who then moves into a franchise and owns a successful franchise, who then turns around and becomes a successful coach for Tom Ferry, who then turns around and becomes a successful coach at a KW brokerage, and who admittedly said, "I'm not done." Like, Kip, talk to me about this, man, because we got some weak folks out here. So what can you spread to them to give them the power of positivity and the power of ability?